This video is a quick review of special senses. There are 5 special senses. One is vision, the other one is hearing, the third one is balance, the fourth one is sense of smell, and the fifth one is taste. So in this video, I will discuss the vision, hearing and balance, taste, and sense of smell is straightforward, so that can be discussed in a different video. Starting with the sense of vision, so eyes are responsible for sense of vision. Each eye can be divided in 3 different parts. One is accessory structures, the other one is the eye itself, that is again can be divided into layers, and cavities. The accessory structures include eye muscles, eyelids, eyelashes, and lacrimal apparatus, and I will discuss each one separately. And then you have the layers of the eye, which is the fibrous layer, vascular layer, and neural layer, and the cavities, which is anterior cavity and the posterior cavity. So I will discuss each one separately. So let's look at the structures of the eye. The eyelids, you have 2 eyelids, one is the superior one, the other one is the inferior one. It's also called palpebra. Palpebrae is the plural form. The eyelashes, so again each eyelid has an eyelashes, and they are for physical protection of the eye. An area that is open, so between the 2 palpebrae, this area, this is called the palpebral fissure. So when you open your eyes, that's the opening of the palpebral fissure, and when you close your eyes, then you cannot see anything. The 2 palpebrae fuse together, or they meet in specific areas. One is in the lateral area, that's called lateral canthus, and another area that is the medial canthus is around this area. So where the 2 palpebrae meet. On the medial canthus, you also have a soft tissue, pinkish in color, that is called the lacrimal caruncle, and that's made of some sebaceous and sweat glands. Dorsal glands, they are producing sebaceous oily secretions, and they are in this area. And conjunctiva is made of epithelial tissue, is clear. It is located on the inside of the palpebrae, and then it reflects on the eyeball itself and covers the white part of the eye. The white part is called sclera, and it comes all the way to here in this area, and it stops here. So inside the eyelids, and again on sclera, and then stops here. This area is called cornea. So the area between the cornea and conjunctiva is called corneal limba, so this area. So conjunctiva does not grow over cornea. And the lacrimal apparatus, which is around this area, so you cannot see it in this image, but you can see some secretions, tears. These are the lacrimal secretions, clearing the eyes, and also has some enzymes and antibodies to protect the eyes. The lacrimal gland is located in the lacrimal fossa of frontal bone, and these are the lacrimal ducts. So the secretions coming through the lacrimal duct goes through the eyes, clears the eyes, and then it drains here. So these are called the lacrimal puncta. Puncta is the plural form, punctum is the singular form, and then drains here in the lacrimal canaliculi. Canaliculus means small canal, and then it goes to the lacrimal sac, and from there it goes to the nasal lacrimal duct, and there it goes to the inferior nasal meatus. Inferior nasal meatus, not shown here in this image. So it drains into the nasal cavity. The eye muscles, so they are responsible for movement of the eyes. So I divided based on the cranial nerves. So the cranial nerve 3 supplying 4 of these eye muscles. One is called superior rectus, so it's responsible for movement of the eye upward. Inferior rectus for moving the eye downward. And you have the medial rectus, the moving the eye medially. And also you have the inferior oblique that moves the eye like this. This is called extorsions, upward and outward. Then also you have the lavatal palpebrae superioris that is opening the eyelids, so moving the eyes upwards of opening the eyes. Then you have the superior oblique, which is this muscle, and that's moving the eye like this one. It's called intorsion, downward, okay, and inward. And finally, cranial nerve 6 is responsible for lateral rectus, and that is abducens nerve, so that is moving the eye outward. So this is the lateral rectus muscle. Abducens is the cranial nerve. So the 3 layers of the eye, so from superficial to deep. The first one is called fibrous layer or fibrous tunic. The area that is in the front of the eye anteriorly, that is the clear area, is made of epithelial tissue, and light can pass through it easily, but light refracts or light breaks, and that's called cornea. Then the rest of this is called the sclera, that is the white areas made of dense irregular connective tissue, so that keeps the shape of the eye and also the ocular muscles attached to it. The second layer is called the vascular layer, and it has 3 parts. One is the iris, so that is the pigmented part of the eye, and there is an opening in the middle, and that's the pupil, so light can pass through it. And then is the ciliary body. These are made of muscles, and these muscles are controlling the thickness of the lens, so when these muscles contract, the thickness of the lens increases. And then is the third part, that's called choroid, and this is made of capillaries, blood vessels, and that's supplying oxygen and nutrients for retina of the eye. This is the retina of the eye. And some tests here. One is called pupillary light reflex. So if you shine lights from the side to the eyes, you can see the iris contracts and the size of the pupil decrease. So when there's too much light, the pupil size decrease. When there's not enough light, the size of the pupil increase. And the second thing is near accommodation. So this is another test. When you see something from far away, the lens is thin, but when you see something from close by, a few inches away from your eyes, the lens thickens. That's because the ciliary muscles contract. So this is one thing that happens in the near accommodation. And the second thing that happens is the medial rectus contract. So both eyes move medially toward the nose. The third layer is, or the deepest layer, is sensory tunic or neural layer. So this is called also retina in some textbooks. It has actually 2 parts. One is the outer part. This is called the pigmental layer or pigmental epithelium. So made of simple cuboidal epithelium, and that contains a lot of pigments, so absorbs extra light. And then the rest of it is the neural part that contains different type of neurons and the photoreceptors. There are 2 types of photoreceptors. One of them is called cones, and these are for a lot of light. So there's you need to have a lot of light so you can see things clearly, lots of details, and it is for color vision. Cones are concentrated in an area is called macula lutea, and the center of it is called fovea. So when you see something clearly, like this laser pointer right now, it is focusing on top of your fovea, so you can see it very clearly. And then the cones are not much around it, so in this area is concentrating. Other area is these areas contain a lot of rods, and these are rods, so these are for low light vision, and they contain visual pigment that's called rhodopsin. The visual pigment for cones are called photopsin, for rods are called rhodopsin, and part of it is coming from vitamin A. So there's an area that does not contain photoreceptors in the retina, and that is called the optic disc. There is nothing there. This is why these are the nerve fibers that are leaving the eye, and these nerve fibers are making the optic nerves or cranial nerve too. So all the photoreceptors are sending signals to bipolar cells. From bipolar cells goes to ganglion cells, and the axons of ganglion cells will make the cranial nerve 2, which is exiting the eye. The eyes have two cavities. One is called anterior cavity, and the anterior cavity contains a fluid that's called aqueous humor. It's continuously made here. These are called the ciliary processes. And then the anterior cavity is divided into two areas. This is called the posterior chamber, so it's behind the iris, and then this area that is between cornea and iris, that is called the anterior cavity. Anterior chamber, I mean. This is anterior chamber, and this is the posterior chamber. Both of them are part of the anterior cavity, both of them. And the aqueous humor that are made here in the ciliary processes, they go through the pupil and then they drain here. It's called a scleral venous sinus. And the posterior cavity is made of an area that contains some fluid and also proteins, gelatinous protein, that's called vitreous humor. And vitreous humor compresses retina against the choroid. So if the vitreous humor is not there, then retina can detach, and then the person may have blindness. The ear has three different parts. What is the external ear from the auricle all the way to the tympanic membrane, then the middle ear, which is containing the tympanic cavity, and the inner ear that has the cochlea, the vestibule, and the semicircular canal. So there's three different areas for the ear, and then I explain each one separately. This is the external ear, and this is called auricle, and that is collecting sound, and the sound wave pass through in this canal. This is called external auditory meatus or external auditory canal. And then it hits the tympanic membrane. So the tympanic membrane is separating external ear from the middle ear. That is the function of tympanic membrane. And the middle ear is made of the tympanic cavity. So this is the tympanic cavity. The tympanic cavity contains auditory ossicles. There are three of them, and I will discuss it separately. And also tympanic cavity is connected to pharynx through the pharyngotympanic tube. That is balancing the pressure on both sides of tympanic membrane. So auditory ossicles, each middle ear contains three different ossicles. The first one is called malleus. So malleus is connected to the tympanic membrane. The second one is called incus. So this is the incus. And the smallest one is called stapes. So stapes is connected to the oval window. An oval window is an area that is separating inner ear from the middle ear. And going back to tympanic membrane, when the sound waves come, then the tympanic membrane moves, and that's changing sound wave to mechanical waves. So the ossicles are changing the sound wave to the mechanical waves, and then transmit that to the inner ear. There is also a round window in this area. This is an area again separating the inner ear from the middle ear. So this is the beginning of the inner ear, and this is the end of the inner ear. Inner ear has two different parts. One is for balance, the other one is for hearing. So this area, this whole area, that is for balance. So then again that divides into two different areas. One is called the semicircular canals. There are three of them. So the anterior one, lateral one, and posterior one. And that is for feeling when you're moving your head. That is for head and eye movement coordination, and also for rotational equilibrium. And then is the vestibule. The vestibule contains the utricle, which is closer to the semicircular canals. The end of the semicircular canals enlarge, and then that enlargement is called crista ampullaris. So this is more, you can see this logically, it's difficult to see with naked eyes. Then the area that is a little bit closer to the cochlea, that is called saccule. So both saccule and utricle together is part of the vestibulum, and that is again for balance. So when you're in a car or when you're in a train, and that's for linear acceleration, you feel that, or when you're moving up and down in an accelerator in an airplane, that's against gravity, so you're feeling different types of movements while your body is static. Those type of sensations are called static equilibrium, and the vestibule is responsible for it. Cochlea is responsible for hearing and has three different ducts. That is the vestibular duct, and the vestibular duct is connected to the oval window. This is oval window, the beginning. This is where a stapes is attached, and then when the sound waves comes, you know that there's a fluid here. The fluid moves, and in the middle here you have the cochlear duct, and you have hair cells here, and organ of Corti that contains hair cell is located in the cochlear duct. And then the fluid comes like this, and this is the tympanic duct, and this is the round window that bulges out to the tympanic cavity. So once again, you have the stapes here. The stapes is pushing the oval window inside through the vestibular duct, so fluid is moving, and with that the cochlear duct is, the hair cells are shaking, and that is sending signals through the cranial nerve 8, and the fluid is coming back this way and bulging out the round window. So you can see the two areas, the oval window and round window here. And then you have the vestibulocochlear nerve, which has two parts. The vestibular part is coming from the semicircular canals and the vestibule, and that's for balance. And the cochlear part is coming from the cochlea, which is responsible for hearing. There are some special tests are there. One is for hearing, you're using a tuning fork. One is called the Weber test, and the other one is the Rene test. The Weber test, you hit the tuning fork and put it on the forehead, and the Rene test is the one that first you put it on the mastoid process and then put it in front of your ear. There's an detailed interpretation of these two tests, but it's not part of this quick review, so I will explain that separately. And also for the function of vestibule, the balance is important. So test the balance, that's called Romberg test. So for balance, you need your eyes, your cerebellum, and also vestibule. But for this test, you stand up and close your eyes, and then now you want to see if the person is moving a lot or not. So if the person is moving a lot, then it might be a problem with the vestibule, or could be cerebellar problem. But if the person is standing and not moving much, then it's a good test. So it means your vestibule is normal. And thank you for watching. I will post more videos about different topics.